Chapter 1. The Origins. Who was Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Edward Epstein was born on January 20, 1953, in Brooklyn, New York, into a modest Jewish household. His father, Seymour Epstein, worked for the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation, and his mother, Pauline, was a homemaker. Though they did not possess significant wealth, the Epstein family placed a strong emphasis on education and intellectual development. From a young age, Jeffrey displayed remarkable intelligence, especially in mathematics, a subject in which he excelled throughout his early education. He graduated from Lafayette High School and subsequently attended Cooper Union. Later, he transferred to the Courant Institute of Mathematical Sciences at New York University. Despite his academic talent, Epstein dropped out before earning a degree. His early exit from formal education, however, did not prevent him from pursuing ambitious goals. Epstein had a natural ability to project confidence and competence, traits that enabled him to gain access to elite social and professional circles. In the mid-1970s, he was hired to teach at the prestigious Dalton School in Manhattan. Despite his lack of a college degree, his charisma and intellect made him an appealing figure to New York's wealthy families. It was during his time at Dalton that he met the father of one of his students, Alan Greenberg, the CEO of Bear Stearns, a prominent investment bank. Impressed with Epstein's intellect and mannerisms, Greenberg offered him a position at Bear Stearns, setting Epstein on a new path. Epstein entered the world of finance without formal qualifications but quickly proved adept at managing high-net-worth clients. He specialized in options trading and other complex investment strategies. Within a few years, he rose through the ranks, becoming a limited partner. However, in 1981, he abruptly left the firm under undisclosed circumstances. Epstein then founded his own financial management company, J. Epstein & Company, which later became Financial Trust Company. The firm purportedly managed the fortunes of billionaires, although details about his clients remained highly secretive. One confirmed client was Leslie Wexner, the billionaire founder of Al Brands, which owned Victoria's Secret. Wexner gave Epstein unprecedented access to his finances and legal authority over many personal and corporate matters. This relationship granted Epstein not only wealth but access to elite circles of power and influence. Over the years, Epstein built a carefully curated image of a mysterious financial genius, which masked the dark underpinnings of his empire. Chapter 2. A lavish life built on secrets. Jeffrey Epstein's life of affluence was nothing short of extravagant. With the financial backing of powerful individuals and unverified investments, he acquired numerous lavish properties across the globe. In Manhattan, he owned a 7-story mansion on the Upper East Side, one of the largest private residences in New York City. The mansion was opulent, featuring hidden cameras and disturbing decor, later found to include photographs of young women and bizarre installations. In the U.S. Virgin Islands, Epstein owned Little St. James, a private island that would later be dubbed Pedophile Island, due to the disturbing activities reported there. He also had a 10,000-acre ranch in Stanley, New Mexico, a residence in Palm Beach, Florida, and an apartment in Paris. Each of these properties served as settings for the abuse and trafficking of underage girls, shielded by walls of wealth and secrecy. Epstein often hosted lavish parties attended by celebrities, politicians, scientists, royalty, and other elites. Among his known associates were Prince Andrew of the British royal family, former U.S. President Bill Clinton, and real estate mogul Donald Trump. Epstein's connection with academia was also strong. He donated to Harvard University and surrounded himself with scientists and intellectuals. To the outside world, he was a mysterious, well-connected financier. In truth, these associations helped him operate with impunity. His properties, particularly in Palm Beach and the Virgin Islands, became centers for a sophisticated trafficking operation. Young girls, many recruited from vulnerable backgrounds, were transported across state and national borders under the pretense of providing massages. In reality, they were sexually abused and manipulated into recruiting others. Epstein's criminal network was layered and organized, ensuring secrecy while feeding his predatory desires. Chapter 3. The Florida Investigation, 2005 to 2007. In March 2005, the facade began to crack. The parents of a 14-year-old girl contacted the Palm Beach Police Department, reporting that their daughter had been taken to Epstein's mansion and paid $300 to perform a massage. The girl revealed that Epstein had assaulted her. Palm Beach Police Chief Michael Reiter took the complaint seriously and launched a comprehensive investigation. Over the course of several months, law enforcement conducted surveillance of Epstein's home and gathered substantial evidence. Former employees, maintenance workers, and house staff came forward to confirm unusual and suspicious activity. Police interviewed several victims who described a recurring pattern. They were recruited by other girls brought to Epstein's home and paid for massages that quickly escalated into abuse. Many of the girls were as young as 13 and 14, and some were recruited from local high schools. Search warrants executed on Epstein's mansion uncovered hidden cameras and photos of underage girls. Investigators were able to identify at least 36 victims. The case by this point was no longer a matter of isolated incidents. It was clearly a well-structured predatory enterprise. Despite the overwhelming evidence, Epstein's defense team mounted an aggressive counteroffensive. His lawyers, including Alan Dershowitz and former U.S. Solicitor General Ken Starr, began lobbying the U.S. Attorney's Office to avoid federal prosecution. Chapter 4. The Secret Deal, a Legal Disgrace. Rather than prosecute Epstein federally, a highly unusual and controversial plea deal was reached in 2007. Negotiated by U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta, the agreement allowed Epstein to plead guilty to 2 state charges: soliciting prostitution and procuring a minor for prostitution, instead of facing serious federal charges related to trafficking and abuse. Epstein was sentenced to 18 months in the Palm Beach County Jail but was granted work release privileges, allowing him to leave the facility for up to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He reportedly spent his days in a private office and returned to a segregated wing of the jail at night. After serving just 13 months, he was released early. The plea deal also granted immunity to any potential co-conspirators, effectively shielding others involved in the operation. Most egregiously, the deal was kept secret from the victims, violating the Federal Crime Victims' Rights Act. The handling of the case sparked outrage among law enforcement officials, advocates, and victims, many of whom felt betrayed by the justice system. Chapter 5. Civil lawsuits and public outcry. Despite the closure of the criminal case, Epstein's victims continued to seek justice through civil litigation. One of the most prominent voices to emerge was Virginia Giuffre, who alleged that she had been recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell and sexually abused by Epstein and other powerful men while she was still a minor. Over the years, dozens of lawsuits were filed against Epstein, each revealing more about his network of abuse. The civil cases also exposed the lengths to which Epstein went to silence victims, including intimidation, surveillance, and settlements tied to non-disclosure agreements. Many of these legal battles dragged on for years, hampered by Epstein's deep pockets and legal firepower. Public sentiment began to shift. Activists, journalists, and legal scholars began demanding accountability. Although Epstein had evaded true punishment in 2008, the growing volume of allegations and lawsuits made it clear that his past could not remain buried forever. Chapter 6. Renewed investigations and the fall of 2019. In late 2018 and early 2019, the investigative work of journalist Julie K. Brown of the Miami Herald reignited public interest in Epstein's case. Her exposé, Perversion of Justice, detailed the extent of Epstein's abuse, the failed justice system response, and the concealed plea deal. Brown's reporting brought new attention to the survivors' voices and galvanized calls for reopening the case. Federal prosecutors in the Southern District of New York began revisiting Epstein's activities. In July 2019, Epstein was arrested at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey after returning from Paris on his private jet. He was charged with sex trafficking and conspiracy to commit sex trafficking, with new evidence and witness testimonies playing a central role. Authorities executed search warrants at his Manhattan townhouse and recovered thousands of photos of young women and girls, as well as CDs, videos, and documents. Some materials were labeled with names and dates, suggesting the extent of Epstein's documentation. The renewed legal action was seen as a long-overdue reckoning. Chapter 7. Epstein's death, suicide or silenced. On August 10, 2019, less than 6 weeks after his arrest, Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his cell at the Metropolitan Correctional Center, MCC, in New York City. His death was ruled a suicide by hanging by the New York City Medical Examiner. However, from the very moment the news broke, it was met with widespread skepticism and intense scrutiny. Many questioned how such a high-profile inmate with clear motivations to implicate powerful individuals could die in federal custody. There were several concerning circumstances surrounding Epstein's death. Just weeks before, on July 23, he had been found semi-conscious in his cell with marks on his neck. While the cause was never definitively established, this incident led to Epstein being placed on suicide watch. That watch was lifted just days later, on July 29, and Epstein was moved to a special housing unit, SHU, with reduced monitoring. At the time of his death, multiple safeguards failed simultaneously. The 2 guards assigned to check on Epstein allegedly fell asleep and failed to conduct their rounds for several hours. Surveillance cameras in the vicinity of his cell reportedly malfunctioned or were not recording. Moreover, his cellmate had been transferred the day before, leaving Epstein alone. The confluence of these failures led to rampant speculation about whether Epstein had been silenced to prevent him from implicating powerful associates. Theories ranged from suggestions of deep state interference to coordinated efforts by elite individuals fearful of exposure. Though the official ruling remained suicide, skepticism persisted across political and social lines. Subsequent investigations revealed a pattern of neglect and mismanagement at MCC. The 2 guards responsible were later indicted for falsifying records. A 2021 report by the U.S. Department of Justice's Office of the Inspector General confirmed many procedural failures but concluded there was no direct evidence of foul play. Nonetheless, Epstein's death left his victims without the chance to see him face justice in court, and it deepened public mistrust in the institutions meant to uphold the rule of law. Chapter 8. The Fall of Ghislaine Maxwell. With Epstein's death, attention turned to his longtime associate and alleged co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell. A British socialite and daughter of publishing tycoon Robert Maxwell, Ghislaine had been central to Epstein's life for decades. Victims described her as a recruiter, enabler, and abuser who played a key role in grooming young girls. After Epstein's death, Maxwell disappeared from public view, prompting a lengthy international search. She was eventually located in Bradford, New Hampshire, where she had purchased a secluded property under an alias. On July 2, 2020, she was arrested by the FBI and charged with multiple counts, including conspiracy to entice minors to travel to engage in illegal sex acts, transportation of a minor, and perjury. Maxwell pleaded not guilty and was denied bail multiple times due to her flight risk. Her trial began in November 2021 and featured testimony from several of Epstein's victims, who detailed Maxwell's involvement in their abuse. One witness, known as Jane, testified that Maxwell helped normalize sexual activity with Epstein and participated in the assaults. On December 29, 2021, Maxwell was convicted on 5 of 6 counts, including sex trafficking of a minor. In June 2022, she was sentenced to 20 years in federal prison. Her conviction marked a significant milestone for Epstein's survivors, though many believed that the broader network of individuals involved remained untouched. Chapter 9. The Unanswered Questions. Despite the arrests and convictions, many critical questions remain unanswered. Chief among them, who else was involved? Epstein had ties to numerous high-profile individuals, politicians, business magnates, and celebrities. Flight logs of his private jet, nicknamed the Lolita Express, showed names like Bill Clinton, Prince Andrew, and others. Photographs, video footage, and documents recovered from Epstein's homes hinted at the possibility of a wider web of complicity. However, few others have been formally charged. While some figures like Prince Andrew faced public scrutiny and lawsuits, Andrew settled a civil case brought by Virginia Giuffre in 2022. Many others have denied any involvement or escaped accountability altogether. There have also been concerns about how Epstein amassed his wealth. Financial experts and investigators have long questioned the legitimacy of his financial empire. Without a large roster of known clients or transparent business operations, theories have ranged from Ponzi schemes to blackmail operations involving powerful figures. U.S. authorities have vowed to continue investigations, but public confidence remains low. The perception that Epstein operated with impunity, aided by systemic corruption and complicity, has sparked widespread calls for reform in how crimes of the wealthy and well-connected are prosecuted. Chapter 10. Legacy and Lessons. The Epstein case has become a defining example of institutional failure and elite protectionism. It highlighted the vulnerabilities in the justice system, especially when immense wealth and influence are involved. More importantly, it forced a national and global conversation about human trafficking, victim rights, and the mechanisms of accountability. Epstein's survivors have become powerful advocates, pushing for changes in laws and policies related to sexual abuse, statute of limitations reform, and victim compensation. The #MeToo movement, already gaining momentum, found renewed energy in the wake of Epstein's exposure.